Cecil County Correctional Officer Association is a labor organization. How would you work with us in making a better work environment for the detention center? Yep. And you're going to have, you would have 60 seconds, please.
Thank you. To answer that question, like I said, I treat law enforcement and corrections the same. We have an FOP in law enforcement. It's okay to be represented by a union. The only thing that we ask, you do it by the book. You must be recognized. You have to be recognized by 51% of your employees. You can't put the cart before the horse, because if you don't have 51% and someone else wants to start up another union, now you have some serious issues. Now you got two unions. I have no trouble recognizing them once they get 51%, because what they're doing, they're already taking the dues, and they haven't out of the deputies' paychecks, and they haven't been recognized. I would love to recognize them as soon as they get 51%, because then they can bring people to the table, just like the FOP brings people to the table to deal with the issues. I am more than happy to address that when the time comes. Thank you.
Dan? And you have 60 seconds, by the way.
I said earlier I worked for a correctional facility for 10 years. Under that correctional facility, we had a union called AFSCME. I don't know if anybody ever heard of it. Basically, what they did is, if we didn't do our job properly, we had issues, we paid union dues, we're like union. They took it in front of the administrators, and issues were taken care of. So therefore, I do believe in unions in a correctional facility. It's a way of communicating between the staff and the administration, as far as correctional administration. And the correctional administration actually knows what goes on in the facility, because issues get brought up. On the other hand, if you never worked in a correctional facility, there's a lot of secret way of correctional officers do things. So their voices are heard and heard and heard, but nobody wants to listen. It's a hard place to work, and I do believe in any representation. Thank you.
Skip?
Yes, I have no problems with meeting with the Correctional Officers Association, just like the Sheriff said, 51% or better need to be recognized. Key topics I'm sure they would come to would be pay, benefits, safety. Absolutely, I'm 110% behind it. 110%. Okay, that's a rough job. Need all the help you can get, and I'm with you to the end. Okay? I'll be down there every day, every week. You'll see me down at least one day a week. Thank you.
Chris?
What's our time on this?
60 seconds, please.
Well, as you know, I've made no secret about it. I do support the unions, and I believe in unions. My dad was a Teamster. Very proud of the way my dad raised me. I know unions are not exactly what they were before, but I believe in what they stand for. So I support that 100%, and always will. We may not always agree, but I will support to at least sit down. That's how it works. I have two children. They don't always agree with me, but they always get input. And I'm not comparing these guys to my children. What I mean is that I will always sit down at the table and listen and recognize them. Thank you.
Hal?
Well, you're going to know my answer on this, since I'm on union sides and support labor. But they have to form a official organization and become a union for themselves. It's just like now with there was a House bill passed this year about Correctional Officers' Bill of Rights, which they never had, like the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights. There's now a Correctional Officers' Bill of Rights, which we're reviewing to see how we're going to fit it into where I work now. But I definitely believe that they should have representation, just the same way the FOP does with the patrol officers. And whoever, when Sheriff, I'd work with them. You know, I work with any union group that there is, as long as they're officially recognized to represent those group of people.
And this is a question to Chris and Barry. And it's from Tony Hinman. Tony, did you want to ask a question? Do you want to ask the question, or do you want me to ask it for you?
Sure.
Okay.
Just paying attention to some of the development situations in places like Texas and Florida. My question is to both gentlemen: what is your position on concealed carry firearm permits for residents in legal standing in Maryland?
Can you repeat it, Terry?
Certainly. The question is, what is your position on concealed carry permits for Maryland residents? And Chris, you can take this one first.
I appreciate that question. That's where my fellow Democrats will see that I tease sometimes and call myself a Republican. I do believe in the right to bear arms, and I have no problem with that as long as they go through all the proper checks, the background checks, and I'm sure that's what you meant. Texas, if you look at their rules and how they do things, their crime rate's down a little bit, and I believe that. You know, rules, locks, and stuff are for the honest people. But I believe that we should give them a chance to do that. So to answer your question, I'm 100% before that. As long as it's monitored and the background checks are completed, I support that 100%.
Barry?
First, let me say I believe everybody should be able to protect themselves in their home, but all weapons need to be registered. The reason they need to be registered is if your house is broken into and that gun is used in a commission of a crime, we can bring that gun back to you and learn that it was from a break-in and entering. The Maryland State Police have probably one of the strictest handgun regulations as far as carrying a permit. And being a police officer for over 30 years, I truly believe that if you meet the qualifications to have a handgun permit under the Maryland State Police standards, you're in good shape. But I do not believe in anybody just being issued a handgun permit, concealed, or correction, just having a handgun and walking down the streets. We all know what can happen as a result of that. Look at a police officer's point of view. Thank you.